Hello everyone. Dharmi. Hi Dharmi, how are you? Good evening, dear. Welcome to the session. Where are the rest of you? Please join quickly so that we can start off. Samir. Hi Samir. Good evening. Good to see you back to the class. Soni. Good evening, Soni. How are you doing? Good evening to all of you today. Good evening. सब लोग कैसे हैं? All good? Preparation, how is preparation going on? I think it is through the roof, I believe. Football goal. Good evening, Mr. Goal. Your goal should be to crack MAH CET Maharashtra. That should be the goal, I believe. Yeah? Okay, great. Yash, hi Yash. How are you? Welcome to the session. I'll just wait for 10 odd seconds more before we open the forum for discussion and practice. So what do we have in the kitty today? We are going to be discussing Sakshi. Hi Sakshi, good evening. Welcome to the session. Right. It's so refreshing and so enriching to see the family growing with every passing day. Soni Balwani, I am late. It's okay. It's better late than never. At least you turned up for the session. I mean, that's the world for me. Right? You at least joined. Okay. All right. So I think you people are going great with maths and logical reasoning and GK and stuff, and English probably there's nothing to teach. We are on the verge. The dates have come out. You know that. So the idea is to put enough practice and get going with the sessions. Particularly when I talk about the verbal ability, section. So as much importance as we give to the grammar part, you know that RCs they will comprise a major portion of the VA section. So the more you practice RCs, the better you grow, and the reading has to grow, and you have to gain on speed. That is the most important thing, right? You have to go on increasing your speed. And today we will be solving a passage with around a couple of questions. And the passage is primarily going to be based on inference, right? So there will be very few direct questions in the passage, and we are going to have fun. Maza aane wala hai. All right. So quite a few of you have joined already, so we can start the session. And let me talk about the questions based on inference, right? The only key to actually solve the inference based question is the elimination. Elimination is the key, right? So all the statements that we read and questions and the statements that you find after every question, the inference based questions, more often than not, they are quite confusing, So you have to have proper understanding of the passage, the gist of the passage, that is the most important thing. And after you have understood the theme and the motive and the essence of the passage, find out the statements which are inconsistent, with the main theme of the passage. So those inconsistencies should be ironed out, or in my terms, eliminated. Okay. Wish Sailor says, good evening, sir. Okay, so your ship has finally come back to the harbor. Welcome to the session. Okay, so this is how the session will look like. And inference questions, you know how the stem is. The passage suggests which of the following about XYZ, or which of the following can be inferred from the passage and all. So we are going to be solving a few passages and questions based on, such passages. And these are the types of questions which we will be solving. Okay. And this is important. Do not go for an answer that repeats verbatim information for inference questions. So any question which repeats itself, any statement that repeats itself should be, nullified, should be eliminated. All right. So on that basis, these are some of the nuggets of thoughts when you come to inference based questions. मोदी सरकार 2024 मुझे विश कर रहे हैं। शुभ प्रातःकाल, प्रांतकाल। गुरुजी, आपने जो भी कहा मैं आपको सेम टू यू बोलता हूं। थैंक यू सो मच। हमारा आशीर्वाद आपके साथ है, हमारी पूरी टीम का आशीर्वाद आपके साथ है। MACET क्रैक करिए। हिंदी आपकी बड़ी माकूल है और बहुत ही उत्कृष्ट हिंदी है आपकी, राइट। मेरी भी हिंदी थोड़ी बहुत ठीक है, सो मैं जवाब दे पाऊंगा आपको। आशा करता हूं अच्छा लगेगा आपसे बात करके भी। ऑल राइट, मोदी सरकार, ओके फाइन। So this is Pradip Sengupta, your VARC mentor and guide and your friend. I welcome you to BYJU'S Exam Prep, India's premier test prep online platform for MBA preparation, and we are going to be solving an RC passage today. All right, so are we ready? Let us get going with the session. So what are we going to do? We are going to read a small passage today, right? I will give you some time to read the passage, stay with the passage, understand the essence of it, and then we will try to, encounter and confront the questions. All right. So here we are with the very first slide. Please read, and then right after 40 seconds, I will take you to the next slide. Okay, start reading. Finish reading. Can I take you to the next slide? Done. Okay. Here comes the next slide. Please read. Okay, so I hope you have finished reading this slide. Can I take you to the next slide quickly? Here we go. समीर, इसका आंसर आपको मैं बाद में दूंगा. थैंक यू. All right, let me take you to the next slide very quickly. All right, let's move on to the next passage quickly. मोदी सरकार का क्वेश्चन है, सर रीडिंग करने के बाद पिछला याद नहीं रहता है, राइट? मोदी साहब, ये सिर्फ आपके साथ ही ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, द रेस्ट ऑफ इंडिया के साथ भी वही प्रॉब्लम है. द हेड फॉरगेट्स द टेल एंड वाइस वर्सा. ये ऐसा होता है. So how to remember the very first part of the passage that you read and how to connect the dots, this is what we need to learn. Okay? So let me take you back to the passage and then we'll discuss. Okay, since you have read the passage, and I think the passage was quite long, and exactly some of the passages in MAH CET are going to be ridiculously long. And as Modi Sarkar was, complaining that we tend to forget the first part of the essence of the passage while we read on. And how to get rid of this, we'll try and understand. So let us hit the passage quickly. I will read very slowly and try and underline the parts which are important, and then I will take you to the questions slowly. All right? Let us see what the passage is all about. How does the passage start? It starts like this. The need for regulation to protect the environment gets widespread, but grudging acceptance. Widespread because everyone wants a livable planet. Grudging because of the lingering belief that environmental regulations erode competitiveness. So are we not talking about regulation, which is important for environment, yes? And some people look at it grudgingly because they don't want regulations. The prevailing view, means the present view, is that there is an inherent and fixed trade-off. What is the bargain? What is the inherent and the fixed trade-off? Right? Ecology versus economy. And this is what the trade-off is. Ecology versus economy. On one side of the trade-off are the social benefits that arise from strict environmental standards. On the other are the industry's private cost for prevention and cleanup. Costs that lead to higher prices and reduced competitiveness. So on one side there is this economic irony, an economic issue at hand, And on the one side, we have nature. We need to conserve it, protect it for our future generations. All right. So this constant tug of war, it goes on and on and on. It has been happening since time immemorial. All right. With the argument framed this way, progress on environmental quality has become a kind of arm wrestling match. What is this argument? What kind of argument are we talking about? Have we been able to gauge the argument? What is the theme? The theme is ecology versus economy. So which one should we protect? That is the argument, that the world we see is divided. And that's why the author says, it's a kind of arm wrestling match. All right. One side pushes for tougher standards and the other tries to roll them back. All right. So this seesaw, movement is going on, right? The balance of power shifts over here. The balance of power refers to, the governance. One way or the other, depending on the prevailing political winds. So we have this. So the prevailing political winds, decides which way the power would shift. But if we have the Republicans, we have a different point of view. If we have the Democrats, we have the different point of view. And this goes on, invariably. We cannot stop it. All right. Then it says, all right, okay. This static view of environmental regulation in which everything except regulation is held constant is incorrect. This static view is incorrect. This is what it says of environmental regulation. Clash Mode is asking me a question. I'm so sorry I missed it. So I was preparing so passionately for MAH CET despite being non-Maharashtrian, and this extension has broken my will to study. I got 98.89 percentile last time. If it's worth studying now. There is no alternative to excellence, Clash, right? I think, there is no substitute to hard work, and your percentile is phenomenal, right? Yes, but that having been said, the quota system, we cannot do much about it, right? But I think you should, depend on your luck. Your luck is on your side, and you seem to be an excellent scholar. So 98.89 percentile, push a bit more, and I think you will be able to back a good college this time. Okay, if that answers the question. We cannot do anything about this quota system, right? It's not in our hands. What best we can do is to keep pushing our limits, right, towards excellence. If technology, products, processes, and customer needs were all fixed, the conclusion that regulation must raise cost would be inevitable. What is inevitable over here? Let's understand it, right? The regulation must raise cost. This conclusion would be inevitable. When technology, products, processes, and customer needs were all fixed, right? This is absolutely certain that regulation must raise cost, right? Something has to come at the cost of something. But companies operate in a real world of dynamic competition, not in the static world of much economic theory. They are constantly finding innovative solutions to pressures of all sorts for competitors, customers, and regulators. All right. Properly designed environmental standards can trigger innovation. This is the author's thought. Properly designed environmental standard can trigger innovation that lower the total cost of a product or improve its value. So judicious use of environment and this tool is what the author is trying to suggest. Such innovations allow companies to use a range of inputs productively, from raw materials to energy to labor, thus offsetting, compensating the cost of improving environmental impact and ending the stalemate. Ultimately, this enhanced resource productivity makes companies more competitive, not less. What? Using the environmental standards, properly designed environmental standards, this, can end the stalemate. What is stalemate? When there is no movement further is possible. There's a situation of stoppage. No movement is possible from either of the sides. That's the stalemate that we are talking about over here. Now we talk about, the author gives an example of the Dutch flower industry that actually follows this. And what is this? Consider how the Dutch flower industry has responded to its environmental problems. What is it? Intense cultivation of flowers in small areas was contaminating the soil and groundwater with pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers, facing increasingly strict regulation on the release of chemicals. All right. Now, this is the issue which the Dutch was facing. Now they understood that the only effective way to address the problem would be to develop a closed loop system. In advanced Dutch greenhouses, flowers now grow in water and rock wool, not in soil. This lowers the risk of infestation, reducing the need for fertilizers and pesticides. So this is the answer. Solution to this issue. Are you getting it? All right. Which are delivered in water that circulates and reused. The tightly monitored closed loop system also reduces variations in growing conditions, thus improving product quality. Handling costs have gone down because the flowers are cultivated on specially designed platforms, right? So every problem comes with a solution, right? So this is the solution which the author is advocating, and this is a perfect case study. So now we have seen what has happened in this RC. The passage is moving from the main idea to supporting idea. Okay, whatever the passage has advocated, whatever the author has advocated, okay, is being corroborated by this example. वो इस example को use कर रहा है as a supporting idea to his main idea. I believe you are able to connect the dots. Yeah. All right. In addressing the environmental problem, then the Dutch have innovated in ways that have raised the productivity with which they use many of the resources involved in growing flowers. The net result is not only dramatically lower environmental impact, but also lower cost, better product quality, and enhanced global competitiveness. So what is happening over here? Solution continued, right? Solution continues, and the Dutch flower industry is a perfect case study to understand this. This example, okay, illustrates why the debate about relationship between competitiveness and the environment has been framed incorrectly. There should not be any debate in the first hand. Policymakers, business leaders, and environmentalists have focused on the static cost impacts of environmental regulation and have ignored the more important offsetting productivity benefits from innovation. So don't you think that the author is an advocate of innovation and creativity? Yes or no? Yes. As a result, they have acted too often in ways that unnecessarily drive up costs and slow down progress on environmental issues. All right? Now, this static mind has thus created a self-fulfilling prophecy leading to ever more costly environmental regulation. Regulators tend to set regulations in ways that deter innovation. So any regulation that deters innovation is not welcome according to the author. Okay? Please read between the lines. This is inference. Companies in turn oppose and delay regulation instead of innovating to address them. The whole process has spawned an industry of litigators and consultants that drains resources away from real solution. All right. So this was the passage on economy and on environment, how to conserve environment and all. So this was quite a long passage. Internalize the idea. Okay. Visualize the idea. Right. Read loudly, but in mind. Right? Try to connect the dots. If you do it, you will understand the passage. You will never ever forget what the first part was all about. Okay? Let us hit the questions. This is the very first question in front of you. Let us see if we can answer this. Which of the following is or are not true in the context of the passage? Again, we are going to grapple with the not true questions. Which of the following is or are not true in the context of the passage? A. Following advanced technologies, successful access Europe has helped the Dutch flower industry boom. B. Having a static view of environmental regulation is not desirable. C. There exist disagreements among shareholders with respect to the regulation to protect the environment. Please choose your poison. Let's see. Rohan is the first one to come up with the answer. He says it's B. Okay, let's answer true, false, both A and C. Okay. Yash has answered B. All right. Option B. Okay. Going back to the passage. This static view of environmental regulation in which everything except regulation is held constant is incorrect. So the static view is incorrect, which means, is the static view desirable or not? Is it desirable or not desirable? If it is incorrect according to the author, right? Coming back. Having a static view of environment regulation is not desirable. So don't you think it is true according to the passage? Yes. Don't you think it is true according to the passage? Now, advanced technologies has helped the Dutch flower industry boom. If you come back to the passage, this part, right? It talks about how the Dutch flower industry, right, initially posing a problem, troubleshot the problem, came out with the solution, and then the net result is only dramatically lower environmental impact, but also lower cost, better product quality, and enhanced global competitiveness. So don't you think that the Dutch flower industry has boomed? Even this can be true, right? The question was, which of the following is not true according to the passage? A is true. Do we have an agreement? B is true. Do we have an agreement? Right? C says there exists disagreement among shareholders. Now, where in the passage have we come across this particular statement? Nowhere in the passage does it say that there exists some disagreement among shareholders. All right. So C is not present. So it is false. A is present. B is present. C is not present. And that is why your answer option should have been only C, option D. Who has marked option D? Let me see. I don't see anybody having marked option D over here, right? But I believe you people have understood why D should be the option, right? A is true. B is absolutely true, right? But C is nowhere to be found. That is why C is the option. All right. I hope that makes sense. Since although we don't have, these things directly present in the passage, but you can decipher when you read the passage. Okay. Dutch, being a European country, could have been inferred. Sony, Dutch as a European country could have been inferred. और कहाँ होगा? Holland कहाँ होगा? Okay, you're talking about the Dutch car industry. All right. So this could have been easily inferred from the question. All right. So one answer is D. Can we move on to the next question? The question was, which of the following are not true in the context of the passage? जो सच नहीं है, which is not true. मतलब जो ट्रू होगा वो तुम्हारा आंसर नहीं है, जो फॉल्स है वो तुम्हारा आंसर है. अंडरस्टूड? ओके. Yes, Rohan, Dutch is Europe. Not true. Now look at A. A says the advanced technology has helped Dutch flour industry boom. This can be definitely inferred from the passage, right? The Dutch flour industry has indeed prospered. B says having a static view is not desirable. If you go back to this part, that is what it says. This static view is incorrect according to the passage. Hence, it is not desirable. So, even this is true, right? But C, there exists disagreement. This part is not present in the passage. That is why we cannot say for sure that this is true. Hence, D should have been the answer. I hope you followed the question. Let's look at the next question very quickly. The author in the given passage, now complete this statement. The author in the given passage, A, is Dutch. B, encourages policymakers and stakeholders to innovate. C, is pessimistic about the outlook people have towards the environment protection. D, encourages forests to adopt the closed loop system for all crops. D, is contented, means satisfied with the present governments for playing their role efficiently. Think about the passage and then come back to this question. Sony has answered it is C. All right. Sameet says C. All right. Sameer says, I guess B or C. All right. Thank you. Sameer. All right. You see, the entire tone of the passage is pretty hopeful. That something can be done to save the environment. Also, measures can be taken to boost sales and to drive economic growth without hampering the environment and ecology. Okay. But the moment you say that the author is pessimistic means, being hopeless or having a negative mindset. Okay, that's what C means, right? Now tell me, can C be the answer? Is the author pessimistic about the outlook people have towards environment protection? Right? Is the author at all concerned about the people's outlook? Please answer this question first of all. थोड़ी बातचीत करते हैं. क्या author थोड़ा सा भी उसको फिक्र है कि लोगों का आउटलुक क्या है about the environment? Right? Do we get this anywhere in the passage? A says the author in the given passage is a Dutch. We do not know for sure whether he is Dutch or not. Right? All right. B says encourages policymakers and stakeholders to innovate. D says encourages forest to adopt the closed loop system for all crops. All right. No, na. C का answer no आ रहा है ना. So we don't agree. So can C be the answer? Is he pessimistic? I don't think so. इसको eliminate कर दो. Right? The tone of the passage is absolutely encouraging. Yes. But do we get the mention? Do we find forests being mentioned in the passage? We have seen the Dutch flower industry being mentioned. But encourages forests to adopt the closed loop system. The closed loop system was adopted by the Dutch flower industry. Right? So this is not true according to the passage. In the light of the passage, this does not hold water at all. Right? E says the author is contented, satisfied with the present government. So we do not know whether the author is contented with the present government or not. But let me take you back to the passage once. Properly designed environmental standard can trigger innovation, right? That lower the total cost of product or improve its value. If you read this part of the passage, you will straight away come to B. The author encourages policymakers and stakeholders to innovate. Are we on the same page? Easily done? Right? Quite easily done. QED. Right? It was mentioned in the passage. Sorry. It was mentioned in the passage. And that is why we are going to stick to B, and this is your answer option. Right? He focused on encouraging innovation. That's what Anshul says. Absolutely, Anshul. Right? We are on the same page. That's how we are going to look at the passage. Don't worry about the length of the passage. Right? It's important how we have treated the passage. Have we let the passage to sink in our subconscious? Yes or no? All right. Let's look at question number 3 very carefully. Which of the following correctly explains the meaning of the phrase ending the stalemate as used in terms of innovation in the passage? A. Dependent on technological advancements. B. Resolves a deadlock. C. Depletes resources. D. Adversely affects the environment. E. Curbs innovation. What should be the answer? Yes, Samir, I can take you back to the passage. Just give me a minute. Samir says we forgot. So let me take you to the part where it is written. Okay, now, okay, fine. I'll give you a hint. This is where it is. Read this part. Ending the stalemate, it says. All right. Anshul has answered B. Dharmi Thakkar says B. Okay. A says dependent on technological advancement, ending the stalemate, dependent on technological advancement. B says resolves a deadlock. C says depletes resources. D says adversely affects the environment and curbs innovation. Just a second, guys. All right. Okay. Since most of you have answered B, Sony says D, adversely affects the environment, right? If I take you back to the passage once, guys, read from here. Such innovation allows companies to use a range of inputs more productively, from raw material to energy to labor, thus offsetting, offsetting the cost of improvement, improving environmental impact, and ending the stalemate. Stalemate means deadlock. I told you that when there is no further scope of movement or coming together, that is why it resolves the problem. It resolves the problem, right? It resolves the deadlock. So this is what it means. Curbs innovation? No, it does not curb innovation. Actually, it increases innovation. It calls for innovation, right? That is why E cannot be the option. D says adversely affects the environment. No, it does not adversely affect the environment. It actually resolves the deadlock. So B should have been the answer. Sakshi, have you followed? Yunus, have you followed? Samir, have you followed? D is not what it means. In fact, it has a very positive note to it, right? Such innovations allow companies to use a range of inputs. Look at the positive feeling coming out of it. More productively. And it offsets the cost of improving environmental impact. Now you don't have to think about the cost of improving the environmental impact. Something which was not answered all this while, now suddenly we have an answer to it, and thus it ends the stalemate. That's why it resolves a deadlock. All right? Okay. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following is most nearly the opposite? The opposite in meaning as the word trigger as used in the passage. Opposite in meaning as used in the passage. Your answers. So it's CACC, all right. Okay. Be very careful when you choose. A says support, B says affect, C says prevent, switch means to exchange, illicit means something which is not legal. Let us see where this word has been used. Properly designed environmental standards can activate, or can start. Activate or start is how trigger is used, in the sentence. They mean this. They trigger innovation. So the opposite would be prevent, and most of you got this one right. You needed the opposite. No, Dharmi, you needed the opposite, Sakshi. Opposite of trigger would be prevent over here. Okay, to disallow, to put a stop, right? Trigger means to begin. So C is a much better choice. It cannot be support, it cannot be effect, it cannot be switch, it cannot be illicit. They have different meaning. So the best word is prevent, disallow. Alright? I hope you have followed. Let's look at the next question very quickly. Dharmi has answered. She says created. Sameer says C, issued. Yash says D, spared. All right. Sony says A or C. Now that's a wonderful combo, Sony. Football goal says A. Anshul says B. Okay. So what was the question? Which of the following is most nearly the same? You need a synonym over here as meaning as spawned, created, mounted, issued, spared, destroyed. All right. Now let's go back to the passage. The whole process has spawned an industry, right? Now this word spawned, it means to spread. Okay. The word is quite negative, right? It can be used to refer to, the breeding of mosquitoes. They spawn in no time to spread quickly. That is spawned. An industry of litigators and consultants that drains resources away from their real solutions. So spawned means to spread quickly. So you need something that gives you the synonym, okay, to spread quickly, right? To spread quickly. And the word is, and the expression is nearly the same. It's nearly the same, right? May not be, ditto, the same meaning as spawn means, but nearly the same. All right, so now you know the answer, right? Most of you are getting it right. The answer is A, created. It cannot be mounted one over the other. It cannot be issued to give. It cannot be spared to forgive or something extra. It cannot be destroyed. It has to be created. Okay, so A is the answer for question number 5. All right. Okay, let us look at the next question. The question says, as mentioned in the passage, the need for regulation to protect the environment A, exists in different intensities among the stakeholders. B, is affected by political pressures. C, always forms out to be an expensive affair. And I would like your attention to this part, on this part of the question. The need for regulation to protect the environment. A, exists in different intensities among the stakeholders. B, is affected by political pressures. C, always forms out to be an expensive affair. Sony has gone with option C. So do you mean option C, both A and B, Sony? If you choose A, it would mean only A, B both A and C both A and B, D only E, and E both B and C. Om says either B or D, alright. ओम अगर एक चूज करना होगा तो क्या चूज करेंगे, वो चूज करो. So Samir will respect this question. He will not attempt it. He says no comments. It is just like leaving a good ball and let the ball go to the wicket keeper. Okay. Anshul says B. Let me show you the slide and then I will ask you the same question again. Please pay attention to the very first slide, the beginning. The need for regulation to protect the environment, right? On the other are industry's private cost for prevention and cleanup, costs that lead to high prices and reduced competitiveness, right? I want your attention to this part of the passage. Right? I want your attention to this part of the passage. And in the light of the information gathered from this part of the first slide, can we now come back to the question? Right? Exist in different intensities among the stakeholders, is affected by political pressures, always forms out to be an expensive affair. If this is what the passage is telling us, don't you think that this should be the answer? D. Only C, always forms out to be an expensive affair. Right? Always remember. Questions are the answers. Okay, so when you read the passage properly, I know that it is a YT live session, so you did not have the chance to go back to the passage, but the answers are lying hidden somewhere in the passage itself. All right, the answers are lying hidden in the passage itself somewhere. So if you are a good reader, it all depends how penetrating is your reading, right? Can you skim and scan? Can you actually elicit the right kind of information from the passage? There are two kinds of readings. We understand English, we are reading, but we are not getting the essence of it. We are not digging in deep. So when you read with a focused mind. Okay, try to skim and scan, go for the information, and then attempt the question. I know, Samir, we tend to forget the passages, and that is why solving more and more, mocks become important. They become absolutely important. So I think RC passages are going to be quintessential. Please try and solve as many as possible. It's difficult to answer if passages not in front. I understand, वो बहुत दिक्कत होती है. Okay, but this was a test to challenge your memory, So whenever you don't see the passage, the idea is to have full concentration on the passage, try to garner as much information as possible, and then try to solve the questions, right? अभी थोड़ा सा pressure build करेंगे तो आगे जाकर के हमें pressure लेने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. Solve more mock, Samir. All right. So that actually, now let's look at question number 7. Right, 6 is done. Let's look at question number 7. As mentioned in the passage, companies can gain a competitive edge if. Now I will show you the options, the passage. A says, there exists a team of experts responsible for implementing practices having a history of success. B says, the environment is devoid of competition. C says, there is thoughtful utilization of resources. What is the question? As mentioned in the passage, companies can gain a competitive edge if, right? Now this should be the author's tone, right? This should be the author's tone, right? The entire tone of the passage is pretty, positive, right? The author comes up with a problem. He analyzes the problem analysis, and then he gives a solution to it, right? Now it all depends, Kanishk, whether we are good at RCs or are we going to attempt grammar, right? If you were to have my advice, I would always ask you to solve the easy questions first. Solve grammar questions, and then at least one RC with these many questions with 95% accuracy, you are home and dry. All right? Can we answer this question very quickly? Companies can gain competitive edge only if, right? Let's see what the answer is going to be. Sony, Om, both of you are absolutely right. Only if there is a thoughtful utilization of resources. Absolutely. All right. Although it is not mentioned in the passage anywhere, but this is the gist, the sum and substance of the passage. Thoughtful utilization of resources, and this is exactly what the author's contention was. All right. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Sameer, Sweetie, Sakshi, absolutely correct answer. Great answers, all of you. I hope you have liked the session. If you have at all liked the session, please like button to dabana padega na, right? And stay tuned for many such classes on LR, on quants. We are really trying to bring to you the best of the content so that you do good in your MAH CET. Now, as far as your CAT 22 is concerned, this is the notification, this is the information for you, right? These are the highlights of our CAT program 2022. So just in case any of you are planning to write CAT 22, you're most welcome to be a part of the family. Let your friends know that we have rolled out multiple batches for CAT 22. They can also be a part of it. And for any queries, please call on the given number or write into us at support@byju'sexamprep.com. And please like our channel, comment on the channel if you really found the session interesting, share it with your friends, and subscribe to BYJU'S Exam Prep. Sir, answer nahi diya, answer to de diya. Sameer, right? Question number 7 का answer C था बच्चे, right? Okay. All right. Can we expect PJ followed by RCs like questions? I don't think so, right? PJ questions will be different, right? They may give you a paragraph if at all, right? And they might ask you to unscramble it and put it in coherent order. But PJs coming in the form of RCs, that I think is quite far off. It's pretty, I don't think it is going to be a part of your MAH CET program. All right. On that note, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YT. हम तो मिलते रहते हैं. Facebook पे follow करो, right? Telegram group join करो हमारा and download the app from Google Play. Okay. So that's a wrap from our side. Thank you so very much. I hope you've enjoyed the session. Wish you all the very best for MAH CET. Good night and stay blessed. शेड्यूल के बारे में बाद में बात करेंगे समीर, right? But this is what we do. We teach and we try to help people like you to crack these exams with flying colors. All right. Thank you and good night, all of you. Bye-bye.